tuning in to the very best. It's yours truly, Jazzy Fizzle, Fizzle, Fizzle. And this is In-State Radio, man. Tune in, baby. Oh, boy.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Memorial Day. This is your boy, Kevin Thornton, and you have tuned in to the Wellness Architect Show. Once again, happy Memorial Day. It's Monday, May 28th, and it's very hot in Atlanta, but it's still raining. It's gonna be a different show than what you're used to today. I have my man Music Monk on the scene. You all know him. He's part of my men's roundtable. But I've also interviewed him before because, you know, I'm all about wellness, and he is the music mogul, and music is a form of wellness as well. Absolutely. But this time, we're going to just do a little bit different since it's the holiday, just to be a little bit more laid back and carefree. We're going to talk about 90s R&B, which is my era, which is what I love. That's what I want to talk about, and why it's so beloved, why it's making such a huge comeback in the, the concert arenas. Nowadays, they sell it out everywhere. All different acts are making a big comeback because it's been so loved, it's been so missed. So y'all just want to kick back, enjoy the show. If you have any questions or comments about your favorite groups, artists in the 90s, feel free to call in at 478-569-6474. Once again, 478-569-6474. If you follow us on Facebook Live, feel free to leave a comment, and the producer will let me know who it is, and we'll respond to your comments. So with no further ado,
hey,
Music Monk, what's going on?
My brother, man.
How you
Appreciate
doing?
You, man. Thank you for having me, man. I feel like the introduction, before we really delve into this, we have to put out a disclaimer because, when it comes to music, just like most things, everyone has an opinion. Everyone feels like, their opinion is valid,
right,
and it rests on their emotional well-being, which
right,
we understand. If I leave anybody out, or if I'm just a tick to the left or to the right of what you guys may feel out there in the world, it's not a debate, to be honest. This is just things to just introduce different concepts or things that we may have already felt, but never had a chance to kind of concentrate our thoughts and ideas into one area and display them. So thank you once again for having me.
No problem.
We talked about the 90s R&B for the longest, and I felt like talking to you about it, we would kind of get some balance, because I know, I have so much, and I know you'll kind of slow it down a little bit, and you will definitely point out some of the errors that made, some of the things about 90s R&B that resonated with you the most. Yeah. So let's dive into it, man.
So before we dive into it, we also want to let the people know this is like a joint venture that this will also be shown on his YouTube as well, correct?
Music Monk ATL. I was so excited, y'all, today. I was kind of preparing, it was a holiday weekend, and I wanted to make sure that when I speak on music, I always try to have my notes and everything ready. So I was working on my notes or whatnot, and in the midst of me working on my notes, I forgot my camera to share this with you all. But we'll definitely figure out a way to lock it in and get it on my Music Monk ATL YouTube channel. And you can also check out maybe some snippets or clips on my Music Monk ATL on IG, that page as well.
Okay.
Said what?
Let's get it. That's all on you, not pimping.
So let's get into it, man.
All
right. I always kind of want to go to the hyperbole first, because that's kind of, I feel like that's what people respond to the most. You know what I mean? Like the extreme feelings of nostalgia and love and hope, or maybe sorrow or loss, or whatever it is. Yeah. And I know the entire 10-year span of 90s R&B, obviously from a chronological standpoint, it covers so much.
Yeah.
So I want to know, just right off the bat, where your allegiances lie when it comes to 90s R&B.
What you mean by allegiance?
Your allegiances, like the group that can't do no wrong. You there for every show. When it came out. You know what I mean? It's just, because I feel like music is one of those. It's one of those things. It's definitely a marker, a time marker.
Well,
for us.
The group that could do no wrong for me started before the 90s, but they went going through the 90s and still going, which is New Edition. New Edition is the know all and be all for me. So that's one of my first concerts I've ever been to. I have every album, CD, all that right now. Even when they broke up to do their individual things, I bought each person's individual things, so you know, it could do no wrong for me.
What was it about? What was it, or what is it about New Edition? Because there's something magical. And I actually wrote that New Edition. If you look at the groups starting off in the 90s, you had the instrumentalist style of R&B music, which was Mint Condition, Tony, Joe Public.
Yep.
And then you had the choreography, the dancers, the singers. You know what I mean? So you had the New Edition sound.
Right.
So what was it about New Edition in particular? Was it because they had all of these cool, distinct personalities?
Yeah, I think because they, you know, I always like groups.
Right.
You know, I like groups and harmonize and all that kind of stuff, and they had real good choreography. But I think with the group, it was 5 of them and 5 distinct personalities, and I could always picture out who I was in that group.
Right.
You know, based on how I conducted myself and stuff like that. Like, so, you know, and then, you know, the songs they played, me, you know, take me back. So I know where I was at for certain songs and why it meant so much to me at certain times like that.
If It Isn't Love, where were you?
I was in high school.
You were in high school.
Yep.
I'm trying to think.
Can You Stand in the Rain? I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, their career spanned 30 plus years. So the earlier New Edition, you know, the Candy Girl, you know,
Popcorn
Love, Mr. Telephone Man, like, what kind of like were you of the age of consciousness then, or were you were you kind of like in the bubblegum phase yourself when that was out? Or?
I was right along with them.
You was right along with okay.
Yep, and as they grew, because for me, I grew up with them. So
that makes sense.
I grew up with them, and so they were a few years older than me, but it was like it's still my same age range. So I pretty much grew up with them. So everything they was going through, pretty much, I was going through the same time. So it was like the soundtrack of my life.
So you speak about New Edition, and New Edition is one of those groups. I think even most recently, they did a show. I believe it was last weekend. I think they were at Funk Fest last weekend. And just a couple of weeks prior to that, it had been announced that there had been another split.
Yeah.
So now it's
were RBRM. Yep.
Okay. So what is it about the combination that makes up New Edition? What about it is so? What makes it so volatile? I mean, they're all extremely talented. They've been able to kind of once again remain relevant over a span of a few decades. But why are they so volatile as an act? Like, what is it?
I think it's the egos. I think the lead singers have the biggest egos. Bobby was the bad boy, but he didn't want to follow rules. And he had the ego because he felt he was the big star.
Right.
Ralph has his ego. You know, he feels like he's a big star. He still feels he's a big star.
I thought Ralph felt like he was like the best singer.
Yeah.
Out of them. You know what I mean? And like when we watched the show, when we watched the BET movie, the one of the most telling parts of how the dynamics played out was when Ralph waited to put his song out, and he had a similar style, and I think Bobby beat him to it. I think I have the dynamics played out the right way. It seems like they never really recovered because I think Ralph was the one that kind of fell off this go around most recently, right?
Yeah. But I think Ralph, they say it's because, I don't know how this happened, but Ralph and Johnny has like the copyrights or whatever to New Edition.
Oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the other 4 does not. So how Johnny has it and the rest of them don't is beyond me. But he's part of it, and they're not letting the other ones be on it. And so that's part of the problem. I also heard that Ralph still feels he's the superstar and he feels that he should get paid more than the rest of them.
So that's why he ended up. You think that's one of the reasons that led to him kind of falling off this last tour?
I knew this guy.
Was it a tour or was it? Or they?
It was actually supposed to be a tour. It was supposed to be a tour. They're supposed to be celebrating their anniversary and all this kind of stuff, off the heels of the series and all this kind of stuff. But they can't get together, and I'm not surprised because a friend of mine I know from the gym, he plays guitar, and so he know, and it was another guy in there. He plays in the band for New Edition, and he was like, they just can't get together. He said, you know, they can't get together, and you know, at certain points, you know, they can't, you know, they just
bumping heads.
Yeah.
So moving on from New Edition, but I do one thing that I can respect and that I do admire when I watch New Edition's career. They always, it seemed like they pop up well up until the 2000s.
Yeah.
They popped up at the right times and they had the right songs, because that Home Again album,
amazing,
really, really, really good.
Yeah.
It was a really good album.
And Home Again was like my joint.
Right, and that was the one that was almost like the climax, or like the peak of whatever reunion. Now there have been a couple of reunions that we've had witnessed recently, but that seems to be the most genuine, heartfelt reunion.
Yep.
And then they had that You Don't Have to Worry remix.
Yeah.
Woo! That's fire. Had that Diddy, had that Puffy on the remix. All right, so outside of New Edition, man, who else? Because I mean, New Edition, because they came from the 80s, I feel like they're a good way to start with 90s R&B. When we talk about the groups, the singing,
groups.
not the instrumentalists. Not the Mint Conditions and the
Tony.
Yeah, you know what I mean, because
I like them too.
Because they're kind of sprinkled throughout, and their careers have also spanned 30 years or so. So we can do shows on just that sound altogether. But for the most part, the non-instrumentalists in R&B.
So it's a battle to me. It's a battle.
Let's do it. Let's squad up. If you guys are familiar with my music, y'all know about the squad up.
You know, freshman year in college, it was a battle between the Good Boys and the Bad Boys.
There we go.
Boys to Men.
There we go.
And Jodeci.
There we go. Thank you.
So
Where's my bell at, man? Get the bell over here, man.
Time, if you trying to entertain a young lady while you was in college, either you was playing New Edition or you was playing Jodeci, one of the two. So
you mean Boys to Men?
Boys to Men and Jodeci.
Gotcha.
And one of the two. So
squad up. All right.
Now who was I?
Let's find out. Because you must have been in my head, because the way that the 90s R&B plays out, we start off with Jodeci and Boys to Men.
Yep.
Not so much New Edition, but definitely Jodeci and Boys to Men. And then we got, some other artists that we'll mention in a couple of seconds.
Right.
But the battle. What was the battle between Jodeci and Boys to Men?
I don't
think they knew it was a battle.
I don't think they knew it was a battle, but we made it to a battle, because you had the Bad Boys, which was Jodeci, and you had the Good Guys, which is New Boys to Men. And I guess it feeds on to the whole mindset that we have today for men, that Good Guys finish last and the Bad Boys get all the girls and all that kind of stuff. And you saw that with Jodeci. Casey had Mary, Dalvin had T-Boz and all that kind of stuff during that time. But I'm a fan of both, but my favorite was Boys to Men. I just loved the harmony.
That's the first thing you have to give them props.
Their harmony was amazing.
And
the choreography was amazing.
The
songwriting, they picked some amazing songs. Even like I still play, like one of my favorites it wasn't like the most popular one from them, but I loved like Please Don't Go, and then I liked Ooh Ah, the sequel, the remix.
Yeah. They tried to get it. That was kind of like Boys to Men attempt at something a little spicy, a little salacious.
Exactly.
Kind of it was kind of in the middle of BBD and Jodeci.
Exactly.
It was right there in the middle.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Very, very, very descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of out of the norm, because they were a little bit more subdued.
Exactly.
The way they did their music. Now, when I was growing up, I was definitely like, I liked Boys to Men. It was the 2 album that I really, because that was like, I think I may have been around, about 13, 14 or so when that came out. And I know I got on my brother's nerves, man, because I played Water Runs Dry.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again, bruh. I was just like, And you know Wanye, man, Wanye had them head bobbing.
Yes,
Why you be doing all of them, man? One day I came in there. I think we might have been in Savannah, and I was we was kicking it at my grandmother's house. I came back and my tape was gone. I wanted to say that my tape was gone. Maybe I'm just adding that to the story. But either way, man, I know I definitely got on his nerves.
That's how I remember. It wasn't those two. I remember I was in the freshman year in college, and that's when they had to split. So with the New Edition, that's when everybody came out their individual stuff. And my best friend, he loved Johnny Gills with the My tape at that time, and he would wear it out. And, so somebody ended up stealing it because they did not want him to play it no more in the dorm. And so that's just how it was.
It's a testament to New Edition because I feel like they had something for everybody.
Yeah.
In that group, because Johnny Gill, his voice was so mature.
Yeah.
Even from the days when he was doing, when he was doing stuff with Stacey Lattisaw.
Yeah.
Like his voice was just really, really, really mature.
Right.
And it may have been a little bit too mature for the sound of what the 90s, that new generation was really kind of looking for.
Right.
So insert Jodeci.
Yeah.
Now, for me, Jodeci was... I'll be honest, Forever My Lady is obviously their first album. It's a great album. But I think for me and my boys in our generation, we didn't really latch on to Jodeci until Diary of a Madman. And I don't know what it is about seeing them brothers in the desert with the leather on. You got to really be feeling the chick to be in the desert with the leather on. Right, you know what I'm saying? They was really, really going at it. And it was, if Keith Sweat in the late 80s, early 90s, him and Al B. Sure and stuff, they represented a different sort of emotion, kind of more of and Boyz II Men to a certain degree, not like a begging, but kind of like a whining, begging. Jodeci made it cool.
Right.
Jodeci made it cool for exact, you know what I'm saying? Like that right there made it cool for the dudes. You could be an athlete and still be sensitive because you like Jodeci. Now, if you was listening to Boyz II Men, you had to do that and not tell nobody. But you could bump your Jodeci, well, not, you know what I'm saying? For real. If it was after school and, I played music every day. So when I came home, I put some tunes on. I didn't really foresee myself bumping the Boyz II Men like that. You know what I'm saying? And all of my boys chiming in. Right. But when that Cry For You, and that Fiendin', and that and also just the way Jodeci kind of built their albums. It was you got all the best kind of freaky songs on the front, and then they did the more experimental, epic kind of like different style production on the back, but it always flowed. Right. But yeah, man, Jodeci, that album, and then the after party in the hotel.
That was my favorite.
And then after that, it was Casey and JoJo. Right. You know what I mean? And I personally think that they did, just a couple too many Casey and JoJo albums. Yeah. The first one, Love Always, is the best one. Yeah, exactly. And then everything else was they were kind of reaching to kind of get back to that creative level, right? And the way it just flowed.
It wouldn't be right for me to be on my show
do it
and not represent my hometown during the 90s.
What's up?
So I was a big Levert fan.
Oh.
Levert, I think they were slept on because they had such a mature sound.
Yeah. Vocally, not too many people, if anybody, could touch Gerald Levert.
Oh my God!
Vocally.
Yeah, so
it's another Atlanta connection there with Levert. Yeah, he was living here. He was living here up until the time when he passed away. Yeah.
So I think most people from Cleveland are humongous Levert fans, Gerald fans, OJ fans. So I had to represent that, because that's still part of my soundtrack in my life. I still play some of their songs to this day.
So Levert, let me get this straight. So Levert, they had one album together, right? As Levert.
They had, I think 3.
What was the most? Because I almost want to think that Levert and Guy kind of came out around the same time. Yeah. And I think Guy because
of the New Jack Swing sound.
Because Teddy was so influential in building and architecting that sound. Levert kind of got pushed off to the side, and then obviously you have the name. The name Levert itself coming from their dad, you know, being with the OJs. Yeah. You know, I don't know whether or not that either helped them or that kind of was just like
they did. You know, they had like three gold albums, but then you know, once again the egos.
Which the one with Casanova?
I think that's one of the first ones.
That's the first one.
Yeah.
And then,
Casanova,
Baby Hold On to Me, was that Levert or was that Gerald Levert?
That's the Gerald with the father.
That's right. So that's right. That's
so Casanova came up with the first one, I think, with Pop Goes My Mind, and then the next one was Baby I'm Ready.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, and then I think the third album they had like ABC and 1, 2, 3 and all that kind of stuff. That's when he went solo.
And then shortly thereafter, when did we lose Sean?
Sean, we lost first. So.
We lost him first.
I think so. Maybe 7 years ago, maybe. I don't know how long. How long had Gerald been dead?
Gerald Levert might have been gone 10 years now.
So yeah,
it's just from 2007 to 2017 went by real fast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we're moving up. We're kind of creeping up. Now I don't want to leave the ladies out of the R&B, the early '90s. Say what?
Oh wait.
In 08, 10 years. 10 years. Okay. So Gerald Levert died in 06.
So Gerald died first.
Gerald died first, and because Sean was in jail over
that's right.
child
That's
support.
right. Yeah.
He died in jail, unfortunately.
So to the girls.
To the girls, yes, to the girls.
My favorite, hands down, is TLC.
Now there's a concentration of female R&B trios, trios, duos, and maybe one quartet.
Yeah.
The only quartet would be Escape. Oh, my bad, two. Funky Divas and Escape. Yeah. So En Vogue first.
Yeah.
Because they ushered in that sound.
Yeah.
Early on in the early 90s. And I was listening to Free Your Mind today, and I was just thinking to myself, like, consciously,
yes,
this is what makes the 90s such a layered era in music, so many layers, because you could, and I actually wrote this down. Let me refer to my notes. I said that the 90s R&B is the most diversive time in black music, the most diverse era in black music.
Right.
And I said especially for black people, but I said you had any message that you wanted to convey.
Yeah.
You could be conscious.
Yeah.
You could be old school.
Yeah.
You could be new school, contemporary. You could be futuristic. You could be freaky. Mm-hmm. You could do anything in R&B. You could be heartfelt. You know what I'm saying? You could be sensitive. All in the 90s.
I was watching Sister Circle one day, and they had Donnie Simpson on there. Mm-hmm. So that took me back from the days of like Video Soul and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And something he said was like right on the point. Like back then, you know, it was more variety, and everybody was able to be played on the radio. Mm-hmm. And then once all like the Radio Ones and the other big conglomerates bought all the radio stations, it took away the variety of what we could hear. And even like he said, you know, what you hear in Cleveland music wise is different than what you would hear down here. But now it's not gonna be the same because they all play the same music nowadays. So you're not gonna get that Cleveland feel, or you're not gonna get that Detroit feel like you would used to, or even the Houston feel, because now everybody plays pretty much the same thing. So
I would agree. to a certain degree. I think that the marriage of hip hop and R&B, and I speak on this a lot, but I think that there was, you know, you can listen to some of the trends in production styles and in music from the early 90s into the 2000s. And technology has always, and as you know, that's always my thing when it comes to the evolution of a sound or a trend or anything. Like, it usually is going to be rooted in the accessibility and the ease of use of whatever technology that is. Right. So the sounds that we were hearing in the early 90s, and I mean, we're definitely going to get to the girls in a second. There's just some things that make the 90s very, very distinct. And I think the orchestral hit, that sound right there where you hear like, and you hear it in all 90s, it is the quintessential sound of 90s hip hop, neon colors, hammer pants, cross, like Saved by the Bell, like
the
after school specials. Like it is like, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons why Bruno Mars is, it resonates so well with people because he uses stuff like the orchestral hit like that. Like it's really hard to describe, but like you guys get a second, just look up orchestral hit, and when you hear it, you'll be like, wow, this is the sound that developed and it's kind of spread throughout. Anytime, I mean, even when an R&B group wanted to do something that was more hip hop based in the beat, they still added the orchestral hit to it, and it rounded everything off. So, TLC, you were talking about TLC.
Yeah. TLC.
I love me some TLC, man. I love TLC because TLC was like a Southern group, but they was like petite. And I say that because, you know, in the South, you know, South is known for being, being thick, but like TLC, like they was like if you look at the Creep video, okay, 2 videos, right?
Yes.
Hat to the back. Look, you already knew where I was going. You already knew where I was
showed
going.
that part when they had those dresses.
Bro, what are you saying, bro? They was just like, we was like, for real?
I know, right?
And it's like we knew, but I think we respected them so much because they picked up where Salt and Pepper left off with the we're proud to be women, but we're not necessarily feminist.
Right.
Am I correct in saying that?
I agree. And they felt that they didn't have to, and they didn't want to have to show all of their goods in order to sell records.
And that's why when we said hat to the back, everybody in the room knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, so when they did that, that's the only time you actually saw them.
We recognized it. You know what I'm saying? And Creep.
Yes. That's my other favorite video.
Yeah, Creep. They didn't have anything tight.
Nope.
It was just some silk pajamas. And they was doing that TLC dance.
And it was still sexy.
And Tion had the little piece of hair hanging down right here.
Everybody tried to get it.
And we was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? We was like, hey. So I'm just gonna throw out some other groups here. Okay. So they don't get lost in the ether. Okay. Brownstone.
Yep. 5 miles to empty, yeah.
Very, very sad. The beautiful sister from Brownstone, she had lost her life a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Now the lead singer, she's from Detroit. So she went to school with some of my homies.
Okay.
So I was a big fan of them. But yeah.
Jade.
Don't Walk Away.
Don't Walk Away. Yeah, them sisters was bad, man.
They were cute.
They were
Especially that lead singer.
Yeah. Distinctively though, like their personalities and their music did not necessarily shine through as much.
Right.
But I definitely feel like, they would definitely be on the the riding music soundtrack of the early 90s. If you were coming of age or graduating high school or got your first little car, your convertible, it sounds like convertible music.
Yep.
Janae.
I love them. Sending my love to you.
Yep. That beat was fire, Mr. DJ.
Yeah, hey, that was like the song. That was the song.
Yes, sir.
But I missed that. I'm waiting for one more.
And if I leave anything out, I mean, by all means, hop in.
So, outside of all those were good. After. I was an In Vogue fan too, but after TLC, it was SWV.
SWV.
Hands down.
SWV. Let me tell you why I like SWV, and I think I know the reason why they resonated so much with both men and women. SWV was that group. You went to school with those girls, and they did a talent show one year and ripped it.
Right.
And from that point on, it was just like, that's them girls right there. Like, them girls can sing. Because Coco got like a round-the-way girl.
Yep.
Like church voice, but not still unique. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But we've heard of Coco before, just maybe not to her degree, but we've heard someone in that realm of a Coco. Exactly. But yeah, most definitely. So not just groups. So we'll toss out some singular artists.
All right.
Kind of get your opinion. All right. Shanice.
I Love Your Smile.
I mean, that's pretty much her song. So it's,
She was. I like that song, but I don't know what happened to where she never could really
watch
catch
her
on.
unsung. A lot of these artists that we're mentioning, if you want to know a little bit more and you want to know the nuances and the background stories, watch Unsung. I keep it the record on. I just record the whole series.
Okay.
And I just go back and I just watch because there's certain things it kind of fills in the gaps that I have in terms of
Right.
timelines and producers, writers.
Right.
But from what I understand from watching Unsung is that it was hard to market her because when she was coming in, she came in right when the bubblegum pop, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
innocent thing was dying out.
Okay.
And she couldn't, she tried to do some stuff and she was groundbreaking. She was one of the first ones to actually rap on her stuff, you know what I mean? Kind of do like a little hip hop verse.
Right.
But the sound was going into and I don't want to say a darker, but just a more physical
Right.
type of realm. And I don't think, far as her morality and what she was about, she
Right.
wasn't about to sell herself short to keep
Exactly.
up with which way the music was going. Brandy. Hey, tell y'all,
Hey.
man, Brandy my first love, man. I ain't even gonna lie,
Brandy.
man. I gotta put it out there, man.
That's my birthday twin. So
Man, look.
she got mad skills.
She bodied Monica in that Boy's Mind beef.
Man,
She bodied her, son.
That was amazing. Her first album was good. Baby and Best Friend, all that kind of stuff. But, but the second one, what Angel in Disguise and Have You Ever?
Have you ever? Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was my CD.
Let me see. Adina Howard.
Freak Like Me. Hey, that was my joint.
Once
Yeah.
again, the '90s had something
For everybody.
for everyone.
Everybody.
You know what
That
I mean?
was-
That's the theme of what this show is about.
That was
essentially.
a club anthem.
Most definitely.
That was a club anthem. I would hear it at the clubs, and we'll.
So we did mention, since we mentioned Brandy, I feel like it would be unfair
Not to mention Monica.
not to mention Monica. And I mean, although I should be partial because that's hometown.
Right.
We rocks with Monica.
I
You know what I
do.
mean? Vocally, she's definitely a better singer than Brandy.
Yeah.
But who you rather have a beer with?
Brandy.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's usually kind of like the litmus test.
Yeah.
Who would you rather have a beer with? If you
Yeah.
don't, if you can't, have a
Yeah.
beer with them. And
Yeah.
I mean, the beer doesn't have to be a real beer. It could be sake.
and
Some alkaline water.
and she could kill it though. She could kill it. She had some great songs, but for me, it was always been Brandy.
Let's see. A couple of other groups. What are a couple of other groups that didn't really get their props from the '90s that we all rocked with and that will ring a bell with us?
I am a big fan. Are they? I think they consider them '90s.
Who that?
They started in the '90s, I believe. Drew Hill. They
Oh
started
no,
in
hold
the
on.
90s?
We gonna get to Drew Hill. We gonna
Okay.
get to Drew Hill. Okay.
Okay.
So, as a matter of fact, since you want to bring up Drew Hill, well, hold on, because I still feel like we haven't gotten past like '94 yet.
Okay.
I still feel like we still in the early '90s. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? And Drew Hill is coming up
Right. Okay.
in there pretty
got
soon,
you.
but not quite. So, what role does Usher play in '90s R&B?
You know what? I liked him from the beginning. Even the first one, I think he was produced by
Puffy, yeah.
Puffy.
Can you get with it?
Yeah.
I think that album is I think that's a self-titled album.
Yeah. I remember when he came out. I went home to Cleveland for the holidays, and we used to have this thing called Turkey Jam, and so all different artists will come and perform for Thanksgiving for the Turkey Jam. And that particular night, it was Usher, and then Genuine closed it out. Yeah, and that was hot.
Genuine.
Yes, sir.
It's a good segue.
Uh-huh.
What you think about Genuine?
That was
I know what I think about. I think Genuine has two really, really, really good albums.
Yeah.
And he also ushered in the closer to the Y2K sound of R&B that I like. Because Drew Hill is in there. Player is in there, obviously. If Genuine is in there, Player has to be in there because they're all background. But it was something about it. It was a non-traditional sound in R&B, but it ended up becoming like Pony is a classic. But 100% Genuine to me, is his best album.
Is that the one with In Your Jeans and all that?
Nah, that's not the one. That's the one with Same OG.
Same OG. Yeah.
Not What's So Different. So Anxious.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That was the soundtrack to my prom. I ain't gonna lie, that one 100%.
Yeah, Genuine was the dude.
So For Real.
I wasn't really a big fan of them. I like that one song.
It's a reason why you weren't. It's a reason why you weren't a big fan of Soul For Real. And Soul For Real had released music as recently as 2016, but nothing has charted since their heyday in the mid to late 90s.
Now I was a fan of High Five.
High Five, Tony. What's his name?
Tony Thompson.
Tony Thompson.
Yeah.
That voice. I mean, that voice.
He had an amazing voice.
Did something happen to him? I feel
overdose.
like he passed away.
He had an overdose.
Damn, man.
Yeah, that was I liked them.
So you said you weren't really a big fan of Soul For Real. I'm trying to think of some more. Oh, your group.
Who?
We leaving out two in the early mid 90s. Shy and Silk. What?
Yeah.
112 to a certain degree.
No, you know what? I was a fan. Okay.
Set me straight now. Let me know. Just give me your order.
Shy and Silk. Who was my favorite? Silk.
ATL, baby.
Lil G's voice was just too much. I loved it.
And he could play lead guitar.
Yeah.
It's amazing lead guitars.
Don't get me wrong, Shy's. Comforter was the joint.
Baby, I'm Yours.
Baby, I'm Yours. That was the joint.
If I Ever Fall in Love.
Yeah.
Their acapella style was very crisp. They had they were definitely the group. If you're doing a showcase or something like that, you would want Shy to do your showcase. But if you want somebody to tear it down.
All right, and Garfield, he lives down here. Yeah, he teaches like African American studies at Georgia State.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
While he's still touring with Shy.
So who else? We said Silk.
Silk. I am a fan of 112s.
Let's go back to Silk.
Silk
got them anthems though.
Yeah.
Silk got them anthems.
Lose Control was my joint.
Is that the last album? Is that like their last one where they really where they was really like on top with it?
Yeah. And I'm just trying to figure out why. Because I don't know. It's that during the time. No, it wasn't during the time that the groups was dying out. But it was
no, they were dying out because we're going to get to that. They were definitely by the end of the 90s, by 98, 99, R&B was on its way out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless you were an artist that was
both,
that could do or a neo soul artist.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing neo soul,
right.
Or if you know what I'm saying? Okay, so we started off with New Edition, Boyz II Men, Jodeci, and by the end of the 90s, all of those groups had pretty much lost a bit of lost being relevant to a certain degree. And then we mentioned Player,
right?
We mentioned Jagged Edge. We haven't mentioned Jagged Edge, but I'm looking at Jagged Edge because I think Jagged Edge is the one group that actually survived the 90s and made it into the 2000s as a viable R&B
now
group.
That was like the next battle. It was Boyz II Men versus
Jodeci, and then it was 112
against
That's
Jagged
not even
Edge.
fair though. No. It's not fair to put Jagged Edge versus 112. That's not even. What has 112 done that is better than Jagged Edge?
Right. Because Let's Get Married, the original I love too, but that remix, hands down.
I would almost say, and just, you know what I mean, just to kind of go back a little bit, that So Def remix to In My Bed.
In My Bed, yes.
Woo, with Brad and JD.
Yes.
Cult classic right there.
And then I remember my anthem when I was out partying was Where the Party At by Jagged Edge.
They still getting paid. Because Lama Rita, one of them Ritas, they using that in their commercial.
That was
and they wrote that. That was the thing about Jagged Edge.
Yeah.
Jagged Edge, and I'm not saying that 112 didn't write, because I'm pretty sure some of them did write.
I think Deron did.
But as a whole, the Casey Boys were, you know, did a lot of the writing for Jagged Edge. But I see Jagged Edge as a group that was able to, because they already kind of had that edge to them.
Right.
And they came up when Atlanta was really at the precipice of like blowing up musically. Yeah. They took the ideology of Jodeci.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had the makeup of Jodeci. Mm-hmm. You had two brothers, obviously they're twins. Right. And then the rest of them were cousins, right?
Yeah.
So you got that going. They could really, really sing. Now they outdid Jodeci in terms of choreography.
Right.
Because Jagged Edge really could dance.
Yeah.
Early on. But that's really the only R&B group that I see. And I mean, there were other R&B groups that could dance as well. Next was a group that could dance. They kind of had some, you know what I mean, some choreography.
You know, Next, That Take Me Back. You know,
Butter Love, man.
Butter Love. Wifey was like my joint.
Once again,
Too Close is my joint.
Wifey was a song that changed, you know, it introduced a word into the lexicon. Wifey is, we still using that today.
Exactly.
To describe someone who we're not quite legally married to.
Exactly. But,
you know, between that and Prototype, but Wifey just flows a little bit better though.
Than Prototype.
Right, you know what I mean? Just you know, flows off the tongue.
Yeah, that was when they broke up, that was hard for me. I liked them.
When who broke up?
Next. Cause that was my boys. I liked them.
I mean, was Next well, you know, I like Next. I think Next is a good group, but I also think that Next is Next is what I like to call a mid-market group. Mm-hmm. So if Next was to come out with an album, they would put the song on Macon Radio. Yeah. Before they put it on Atlanta radio.
Okay.
You know what I mean? To kind of test it out first. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that they don't have a far reach, but it's just easier. Those artists that are still traveling and performing on the new age chilling circuit, which is not a derogatory term. It just is what it is. If you find yourself, if you are an artist, with all due respect, because I love all my artists, if you are an artist and you perform at Wolf Creek like twice in 2 years, then you on the new age chilling circuit. It's not. It just means you making your money. You just not selling out Phillips Arena anymore, which is good. Right. Because the cost is lower, so you get to keep more of your money. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely understand how the game goes, but I'm trying to think of any other male groups as yet.
I like that one song. But I was never Last Night.
Last Night.
I was never a big fan.
They were a little bit too over the top.
And I was not really a big fan of Color Me Bad either.
Color Me Bad. Once again, going back to how amazing the 90s are as an entire decade of music. The diversity. Once again, I said it's like the most diverse. You had Color Me Bad. Remember All for One? Yep. Man, All for One was 93, 94. Yeah. And you had a different group. You had like this amalgamation of, you know, they weren't your typical R&B guys. They were just some guys that could sing and
from a male perspective, I think why 90s R&B is so beloved, especially even for men. It was like the soundtrack for us, you know, 'cause a lot of men are not the most emotional type guys, and you can find songs in the 90s that you could play for your girl that express how you felt. Now, not so much.
Something for everybody. That is the theme of what 90s
You know, I
R&B is
remember
about.
I was dating this young lady. It was like Valentine's Day, and I created this CD,
Mm-hmm.
and I told a story about how we met, and I used different song
Mm-hmm.
titles, and I created a playlist of in order of.
Back then it was a mixtape.
Well, yeah,
It was a mixtape.
yeah.
You ain't got that far from your roots. You talk about playlists and stuff.
It was mixtape. Well, you know, I created a CD, and then the songs went in order of how it came in my story,
Mm-hmm.
how I met her. So you know, I played Beauty, and I played Baby I'm Ready, and I played like Teach Me, all this kind of stuff like that. And so you know, it worked. You know, that kind of good stuff. But it allowed me to express how I felt through songs.
702.
Where my girls at? Yeah,
702 and 702
and 3LW.
3 not so much for us.
Okay.
Okay. 3LW, they good. Don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? But they're just a little bit under us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not
Yeah.
in terms of value or worth, in terms of like when they came out.
Right.
So I don't really remember rocking out to some 3LW. That seemed to be more bubblegum.
Yeah.
You know what I
True
mean?
bubblegum.
But let me see, who do I have here? So 702 and remember Subway?
Yes.
This little game we played?
Yep.
That was it right there.
Yeah.
If you look, we used to have these little parties, and we was good for the most part. But that 702 come on with that Subway,
Yeah.
yup. You gonna feel you know what I'm saying? You gonna feel you some booty. You gonna feel a little booty on that. So speaking of, what do you think what's the best one-hit wonder from the 90s? You can only pick one song. I think I have an idea, but I just want to hear you.
That's a good question. It could be Freak Like Me. Cause I don't think she had that one hit, right?
Okay. Are you going with that?
Yeah, that's the club banger.
Producer?
What's your thoughts, Ms. Net?
Best one-hit wonder of the R&B one-hit wonder of the 90s.
She said.
She said she gonna think about it.
What's your thoughts?
Mark Morrison, Return of
Oh
the
my
Mac.
God.
What are you saying, bro?
Yeah. Okay. You right. My bad. You right. Yeah.
Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac.
I know where I used to party at with that song.
Legit, you still,
Yeah.
huh?
Gotta be a group.
No, I was just saying, just one hit
Anybody.
wonder. Yeah, just one hit wonder.
Okay. Understand.
Because Mark Morrison is truly a legit one hit wonder.
Yeah, and I
Because he had that one song
One
and
hit.
everyone knows,
Damn.
Return of the Mac.
and I partied hard off that song too. Dang, I forgot about that song. She's still trying.
Right,
to
she's
think.
she's still over there thinking.
That was a good question. I like
Good
that.
question?
Yeah.
So, while she's thinking about that, a couple other things that I noticed about the 90s.
Okay.
First of all, I don't think that there was a better one hit wonder over Return of the Mac. I don't think so.
No.
I
Now that I thought
think
about,
that is-
yeah, that
I
was.
think that's it. I think
Yeah.
that's it as far as one hit
and
wonders.
the
from
crazy
the
part
90s.
about it, people still play that song.
They
to this day.
still play it. They
Yeah.
still play it. It comes on every week on somebody's old school.
Yeah.
What you got?
He's mine.
You may have had it once, but I had him all
all
the
the
time. Who? Dang, Moke and Steph. Moke and Steph.
Yeah.
Look at you.
That was
Hit him with the Moke and Steph.
You see how that was the one hit wonder? I for sure forgot that song.
Changing Faces.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk
Wanna
about
stroke
some
you up?
duos
Yeah.
a little bit more. And first of all, if you look at that video and you listen to that song, clearly them girls did not write that song.
No.
That was all R. Kelly's doing.
Exactly.
What? Ain't no young lady gonna just knowingly be like, "Do you mind if I stroke?" That's not even lady
That's not
jargon.
like,
They
no.
don't say, "Let me stroke you up."
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? Look, and say that
Come
one more
on now.
time. Not at all, right?
Come on.
So I said that the thing that I like about, and as you know, I just kind of want to get your feel on this. What I value about 90s R&B is that as a black man, you can sing it and not lose your masculinity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, I think that's it for me.
Man, you know, R&B, you know, back in the 90s, it penetrates your soul. I'm, you know, it's like, I taught spin classes and I'll do old school, and I'll play some old school R&B, and maybe I might play whether it's Drew Hill or something like I played Beauty, and to see the men go off into their own little world, and while they riding this bike singing. They have no care in the world if you watching them sing. That song meant something to them, and they had no care about singing. They felt like they're not gonna lose their manhood singing that song. And I just think that's just how it was. You know, everybody. You know, when you sing a song, those songs in the 90s it's meant a lot to us, and to just go ahead and sing it.
I also think that I like the way that it seems to. Far as where you were coming up, like if you were coming of age in the early 90s and the In Living Color era, versus when you were coming of age in the late 90s, like I was, it seemed like the 90s was 20 years long. You know what I mean? If you really, because each one of these had their own individual eras, and one of the things that I noticed about it was that the 90s was so rich and plentiful and abundant and available for people to express themselves that a handful of your favorite artists from the 70s regained and found new fans and regained traction. Well, not just from the 70s, but the 70s and the 80s regained traction and were able to kind of revive their careers. And I'm just going to name out just a handful, and you tell me if you can kind of see where we're going with this. Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. Whitney Houston brought her back
with I'm Every Woman.
I'm Every Woman. Barry White. Practice what you preach.
He went once again. That's a Gerald Levert song. Made him popular.
Anita Baker.
Yes.
Anita Baker. Anita Baker may have made one of the smoothest transitions from 80s to 90s.
Yeah.
There's a big one that I'm saving for as my last example. It's not these are not the only examples, obviously,
right?
But they're the most telling, the ones that I saw stuck out the most. And before I get to my best one, I'm gonna go Quincy Jones.
Secret Garden,
because Secret Garden had Barry White, James Ingram, DeBarge, Albie Shore, and if that ain't 90s,
And then the next album he had, that's when he introduced Tamia,
right? Yeah. You Put a Move on My Heart.
Yeah.
And Tamia.
Yeah.
And finally,
yes,
in my opinion, the group that was able to regain some traction and capitalize off of the 90s movement, the Isley Brothers, Mr. Ron Isley.
Yeah, oh my God, that's R. Kelly.
Yes. So that right there kind of let me know that there was room. There's definitely room for everyone, and it wasn't a very the 90s didn't discriminate.
No.
If you had the opportunity, if you had the sound of what people were tuned into, you didn't have to go through as much to prove the fact that you deserve to be relevant.
Right.
Now in the 2000s and the 2010s, is really, really hard. You have to go through a lot. You have to prove to the younger gen, like you have to prove to them that you should be listened to, and they're only going to listen to you for 15 to 30 seconds. And you have to prove to them.
Yeah.
You got to take a whole 3 months to prove to them that you're worthy of 30 seconds.
And it was crazy because it's funny you said that because back in those times, you truly had to work a song.
Yeah, you had to work it. Yeah,
Because
yeah, you did.
Songs didn't go instantly number one like they do nowadays. They had to work. They worked those songs for weeks and weeks. It might take 2 months for that song to actually hit the top 10. Mm-hmm. But you end up enjoying it, and But now it's like it's that instant thing. They don't want to work that song because, hey, they expect to go number one quickly. But I do want to say it's a group that we have not talked about. I know we're going to talk about Dru Hill later, but it's a group that we haven't talked about that I was a fan of too, which is After 7.
After 7. I liked After 7. If you know anything about Babyface and The Deal,
Yes.
then you should automatically be a fan of After 7.
And it was one
and they're a great R&B supergroup as well.
Miles, was that Miles?
Milestone. Yeah, Milestone.
And then my other group that I was a big fan of, and that's back to the early 90s, was Troop.
Troop. Yep.
Spread
Troop.
My Wings, the remake of Sweet November.
So we got to put we have to put H-Town in there as well.
Yeah.
We got to put H-Town.
H-Town.
But once again, and to continue with the theme, the 90s had room for everybody. So H-Town they were a little raunchier. They were a little bit more descriptive. They were knocking the boot. Once again they added a term into the hip hop lexicon with knocking the boots, right?
Exactly.
So I'm trying to think who else can we think of? I almost like I feel like this is so hard because it was so bountiful.
Right.
So many artists, you don't want to leave anybody out. But no. Dru Hill is really, really important. And the reason why I kind of wanted to save them for last in certain respects is because they symbolize the last. You know what I'm saying? And now, although Jagged Edge made it through,
Dru Hill,
it was that end of the Dru.
Oh my God,
man! That end of the Dru,
and the Dru World Order.
Dru World Order in it. So they got 3 solid. They have 3 solid albums.
Man,
that span about 6 to 7 years.
Yeah, they was killing it.
And
theme songs, anthems, and the crazy part about it, the song that I think all men love the most was not even a true single, which is Beauty.
Yeah, but they played it. They played it like it was a true single. But you heard, but really though, that first Dru Hill album had a lot of. Dru Hill was the next coming of Jodeci.
That's who they idolized.
They were definitely the next coming of Jodeci. They may not necessarily have had all of the Jodeci nuances and mannerisms down because that balance was very, very hard to recreate with those guys. And plus, aesthetically, they just don't match up. But they tried their best to. Right. They were the rugged guys, you know what I mean? They were a little bit darker. They were the bad boys. Dru Hill was definitely the bad boys, and I think Jagged Edge picked up on that and kind of ran with it a little bit further. But yeah, we rock with Dru Hill so much because I think that Dru Hill, outside of giving you some down home Southern church style singing, like if you listen to 5 Steps,
oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you,
that's on my playlist.
It gives you chills. It does. Like 5 Steps give you chills.
That's
you know
on
what I mean?
Playlist.
And it's a very, very epic. Yeah. It builds epically throughout the song, and it's one of those songs where if you're gonna do that for the talent show, you got to be ready for it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be ready to do it.
That was like, and I know Beauty and all the other things was on there too, but it's something about that song that's give me chills.
You know, Cisco left everything. He left everything in the studio when he did that one.
Yeah.
He left he ain't leave. He was like, I'm going home, turn the lights off. Look, we done. You know what I mean? And I think, and because also it was placed at the end of that CD, I think that was the best. That was a perfect way to cap such a great debut R&B album from those fellas. I think that's a great way to cap that off.
Right.
And typically your R&B artists, they will use something a little bit more gospel infused or gospel inspired.
Right.
And I feel like Five Steps could easily, with the tweak of a couple of words, could be an inspirational type of song.
Sure could have.
So, but that's not the most inspirational song of the 90s.
No.
What's the most inspirational song of the 90s? I think I know what it is, but
Is it I Could Believe I Could Fly?
yep, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yep. I think everybody love that song.
Okay, so I didn't really want to talk a lot about R. Kelly at all because I know R. Kelly is embattled right now. He is going through a lot, and partially it's our fault as well as consumers that we've let this continue to go on and build up as much as it can because we knew about this
Right.
with Aaliyah. And there's some reasons why I have been leaving out certain people as well because a lot of people kind of tie in together
Right.
when you start to kind of wrap up what the 90s, what R&B meant to the 90s. But since I did mention the Isley Brothers and I did mention that they would have not been able to regain a place in you know, as far as the R&B narrative goes without R. Kelly, with all of the perversion withstanding, right? What are your favorite R. Kelly albums?
Wow, that's a good question. I think 12 Play is my favorite. I think but on the first one was good too, and it was a song that he always played. Like
Talking about R. Kelly in Public Announcement?
No, not that one. I'm sorry,
Oh.
the first one. What's
12
the
Play.
name?
12 Play is the first one.
But what was the one that he had, Trade in My Life? That was, I don't forget, but Trade in My Life. That was like that was his other inspirational song.
So the R album with When a Woman's Fed Up.
Yeah.
That album had more theatrical songs on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact track list because it was a double disc.
Right.
But that sounds like it's on the R
Probably.
album. My favorite R. Kelly album is self-titled, the one with Down Low on it. The R.
Okay.
Kelly, that one right there.
Okay.
Songwriting was it's probably the best. It's probably his best complete before he became the Pied Piper.
Right.
That was the one where he was still just a normal person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
The one with When a Woman's Fed Up, that double disc. Anytime an artist starts to do double disc music in an era just because people are doing double disc, it came across a little pretentious. So I don't quite, the production and the sound of it is amazing as an album, but the theme of it, I didn't really understand the theme of it that much. And then I think once the 2000s hit, R. Kelly became the poster child for a lot of different things.
Right.
Gaudy, debauchery, hypersexuality.
Yep.
But he continued to hit us with anthems like, and that's why I like the R. Kelly album because it had You Remind Me of My Jeep on there.
Right.
And then if you look at him after, let's say, Fiesta comes out, and Ignition, and he started yodeling in the songs. You know what I'm saying? Like so R. Kelly is definitely creative, and we can definitely kind of chart what he's been able to do artistically. It's just for me as a brother, it's just hard for me to come to raps with just everything else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this.
What's up?
Because the question that I saw, I forget who it was, but they said, so when do we try to separate the artist, the music from the artist?
That is
Love the music that was created, but
That's-
but we don't have to love the person he has become.
I think that question represents the contradiction that we all in the black community must live with on a daily basis, with a lot of different people, a lot of different entities, a lot of different scenarios and situations. There's always this battle between what's right and just and moral, as opposed to what is free and autonomous.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think black people have always dealt with the idea of freedom and autonomy because we've always had ours infringed upon in some way or another. So it's harder for us to say we want to do something that's going to restrict another person or a black man from getting their money or this, that, and the third. But I feel like at some point the overall responsibility to our community as a whole should always supersede the benefits of one individual.
Right.
Because
do we do the same to others that maybe went down that road as
specifically speaking, like who?
Somebody was talking about. Somebody mentioned Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. First of all, the thing about Michael Jackson was sometimes conditions culturally are right and just perfect to just bring down somebody. You know what I mean? And I'm not necessarily trying to go into the whole realm of conspiracy theories, but do I believe Mike was a pedophile? No. I believe that when you're in your formidable years and when you come out of the womb, you're born, and in 30 months from the time you were born into this earth, 30 months later, you were dancing like James Brown. You're destined to not live a normal. That's not normal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think when people have such a high level of talent and the influence and people putting their hands on them in such an early age, I don't mean literally putting their hands on them. I'm just saying people, because as a minor, you don't really have any choice on what you do in a lot of ways. Those formidable years where you're able to develop social, like socialized skills and understanding norms and traditions and knowing what's right and faux pas and stuff like that. He never grew up understanding what don't look right. Because in his whole life, nothing that he's done has ever been on the scale of a regular person.
Right.
So having money and being really weird is his thing. But also, I don't blame him, but I feel like what he can't really escape is once he got a certain age, allowing Martin Bashir to do that interview with him saying that he'll have the kids in the bed. Mike didn't have nobody around him that could be like, hey, Mike, I know you not a pedophile, but you can't say stuff like this because you're making yourself an easy target. So what happens is because you're not a racist, because you're a philanthropist and you're a humanist and you love all people and you like to see the good in all people as an idealist, you set yourself up for the people who want to come in and say, well, look, we know ain't nothing going to happen to you because we already know, but we're going to send you in there anyway, and we're going to make you fabricate something because it's going to be hard for him to disprove when he just went on national TV after he done bought a whole kids, Never Neverland, you know what I mean? And you're catering to kids. It's different from we have to look at Michael Jackson and R. Kelly through different lenses. You have to look at Michael Jackson as a tragic figure, but not because of his own doing, because he's a victim of his own talents. You know what I'm saying? Okay. He's a victim of a lot of different things. Certain things he did on his own. I'm not saying that he was perfect, but it's just easier to set up a black man who was willing to do weird stuff out in the open. It's just easy. It's just easy. Whereas R. Kelly has called himself the Pied Piper, right? Which means there's a psychological aspect about him knowing what he does and the effect that he has on individuals. That's the thing that's the thing I have a problem with.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? More so than anything. But I think Mike did it? Nah, but I just think at this point, man, we just too far gone in the whole grand scheme of things for it to ever really matter. I mean, the man dead now. Sony, the Sony catalog has been released from his grasp. You know what I'm saying? Like, money's been made, hand over foot. Right. I mean, what else? I mean, it ain't nothing else for us to really
Exactly.
for us to really say about it.
Yep. Now, before I think we missing one particular person
Who that?
that we have not talked about.
Who that? Let's talk about him.
The queen of hip hop soul.
Oh no. I'm definitely gonna talk about Mary
Oh, I
J.
should. Okay, I'm ahead of you there.
Yeah. No. You actually right on time. You actually right on time. What you think Mary J's best album is?
Ooh, good question. The second one.
My Life. I
My
already knew
Life.
you. I already knew because My Life. The second look. If you are really, really, really into this R&B movement, if you're into traditional R&B, and if you're into neo soul, what you will find is that these artists' second albums, even the second groups, because I think
Yeah.
Enter the Drew was a better album than Drew Hill.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It may not have had the more cult classic notable hits,
Yeah.
but I feel like it was definitely a better album.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah, I think, Boyz II Men second album was better than the first one.
Diary of a
Jodeci-
Madman was definitely better than Forever My Lady.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
well, can I say that? Yeah, I can say that. I can
Yeah.
say that.
I think, both those groups had, I think their first album was like a cult, like you said, cult classic.
The one that makes you
But-
pay attention.
Yeah.
Where you get their
They got
attention.
better.
And then
I
the
think
second
even
one they
with
pay attention.
SWV, I think their second album was better, even though I liked Weak and all that kind of stuff. But
Was Human Nature on the first one or the second one?
I think that was the first one.
I think so too.
I do agree, but
What's up?
it's one song by her that I've been playing lately that I wish I could hear it. I could hear it live one more time.
Who that?
It's her with Jodeci.
Talking about on the
loving you is all.
But you
I-
can't hear it though. You can hear it on the best unplugged CD ever. Now there were some great unplugs.
Right.
Nirvana did a great unplug. LL did a great
one.
unplug. Badu did a great unplug. Maxwell did a great unplug.
Amazing.
But that Uptown 1996 unplug that had Lately on there,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
Man, but it had everybody. It had Father MC. It was pretty much. It was a Uptown. And Uptown had been doing a lot of like compilation CDs. There was some Uptown. I think there was an Uptown Suite Volume 1 through 4, and it had everything from. It had Guy on there. It had Jodeci, Father MC, Mary J. Like it had that whole Uptown sound. I think Uptown sound bridges is the bridge from the Your Boys Guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? From that sound, that
Yeah.
what the New Jack Swing, Uptown came from New Jack Swing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But loving you is all I have to do. That was like my joint.
So My Life is definitely
Oh,
Mary J's. So that's a good way to kind of round it out because we would not be able to talk about the 90s. And I feel like what we got about 20 minutes, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We would not be able to talk about the 90s. This is the best way to round this out. If we did not talk about the soundtracks of the 90s.
Yes.
The soundtracks, if it were not for the soundtracks, the 90s wouldn't be the 90s.
No.
The 90s R&B scene and also the hip hop scene, but more so because the R&B was so dominant. It's the soundtracks. So we're going to start off with the best because I feel like all the soundtracks were dope.
They were
All
dope.
of them were dope. But we're going to start off with what are we going to say is the first best soundtrack of the 90s for R&B. I know what it is, and you better get it right, Mr. Wellness Architect. I know what it is.
Now, our brother from the mother whose birthday is today.
I know. Hey, man, shouts out to Mr. Hodges being in the conversation, man. Happy birthday to you, brother.
He said, and I kind of agree to a certain extent, his favorite is Boomerang.
Boomerang is it? It is Boomerang. Boomerang
And
kicks off the 90s.
Yes.
Now you had
And that's when Tony became who she became.
Boys the Men.
Boys to Men with In the Road.
End of the Road.
Johnny Gill with There You Go. It was some other songs that was in there. That's
PM Dawn.
PM Dawn. Yep.
That PM Dawn, man.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, man. If you got somebody that you ain't quite got over in your life,
Yeah.
Find out. If you ain't sure how you feel about somebody, just listen to that song. And because I died without you, man, like that is a proclamation.
Yep.
Who else we got?
Give Me My Heart. I remember that one. End the Road. Love Should Have Brought You Home Last Night.
Love You.
There You Go.
Hot Sex. Oh, Hot Sex on the Naked Platter. Yep, I remember that. That was in the movie theater on that one right there. Group. But once again, this is a and this was put together by LaFace, right?
Yep.
So I think the reason why Boomerang is better than, let's just say, like Blank Man didn't have a good soundtrack. No. Let's name some other ones. Low Down Dirty Shame. Did that have a good? Nah, that didn't really have a notable soundtrack.
I did like New Jack City soundtrack.
New Jack City, but okay, but what's a notable song that resonates with everyone from New Jack? And that's what makes a great soundtrack.
Yeah, that's true. What's that? Was I'm Dreaming? That wasn't on that soundtrack, was it? I'm Dreaming.
I Want to Sex You Up was on there.
Yeah.
For the Love of Money.
I'm Still Waiting.
And that Christopher Williams, I'm Still Waiting.
That's
Johnny Gill. But Christopher Williams had an I'm Still Waiting too, didn't he?
And then that I like that one too. I remember that from the movie.
There You Go, Telling Me No Again.
Yeah.
What was that song? Strictly Business. Did Strictly Business have a good soundtrack to it?
I don't remember.
I don't think so.
It was just that one song I think they had, right?
Cause whatchamacallit was in it. That was it Halle Berry in it? Halle Berry, Tommy Davidson, and whatchamacallit, Olivia's dad from Cosby Show.
Jeff. You remind me.
Stephanie Mills. Okay, so once again, this was a Uptown. They got that leader, Shining Star Leaders of the New School. Stephanie Mills, which probably was the last time she was on a soundtrack.
Right.
All right, so Boomerang. So we'll use Boomerang as one bookend for the 90s, and we'll work our way up to the end of the 90s, right? Because Boomerang was 92, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yep. All right, so next one. What's the next soundtrack that we really, really, really rocking with?
That's a good question.
Waiting to Exhale soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what Mary J made. Mary J made the crux of her career is based off of those soundtrack songs, like
Not Gonna Cry.
And
then
she had the song that
Brandy was on there. Was Sleeping in My Room.
Yep. What else was on? Who else was on there? Really, I want to say that Mary had two songs on there.
Think she did.
I think she had two songs on there, but Not Gonna Cry was
that was a Babyface them too, right?
Yeah. So we had that one, and that was 1996.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're getting closer
to the end.
So who else we got as far as soundtracks go?
Those are the only two main ones that I can really remember.
Booty Call soundtrack. Booty Call soundtrack had Ladies Night on there. Was it Ladies Night? Ladies Night.
The one with Angie Martinez?
With Lil' Kim, Da Brat, Missy, Angie Martinez. I think that was on Don't Want to Be a Player.
Okay.
By Joe.
Yeah.
That was on there.
Okay.
Can We Get Freaky Tonight with SWV and Missy.
Can we? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? Definitely some bangers on there. Who you got? Who that? Oh, Bodyguard soundtrack.
Good job.
Real good.
How we forget that?
I know why. Because it's a dope contemporary R&B.
Okay.
It still has remnants of the old sensibilities of R&B.
Right.
Like she wasn't doing. Now it did have I'm Every Woman was on that soundtrack.
I Will Always Love You.
I Will Always Love You, but for the most part, the sensibilities came from her earlier days. She didn't really do an infusing of hip hop and R&B.
Mm-mm.
So I think hers is more traditional. Especially she did a cover of Dolly Parton's song.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I Have Nothing. I'm Every Woman. Run to You.
Run to You was that song though.
Yeah. Queen of the Night.
Queen of the Night. Yeah. And as you can see, all the ones that we remember are the ones that she did.
Yeah.
So, let me see. Oh, far as some other soundtracks, let's see.
Jones.
Man, I'm leaving out the man. If you know what, this is how I know my friends not watching. This is how I know that my friends are not watching, because somebody would have called in or text me and said, "How are you leaving out the greatest neo soul soundtrack / album of all times? How can you leave out Love Jones? Love Jones has everything on it. Michelle, I think Michelle and Deggiocello is on the Love and Basketball soundtrack. But far as Love Jones goes, you got Maxwell.
Yes.
You got Trina Broussard. You got Escape is on there. You got you got Lauryn Hill with the Refugee Camp All Stars with something. Matter of fact, the Love Jones soundtrack is not only is it one of the best soundtracks, it's the best neo soul soundtrack, and it's also a soundtrack of remixes as well.
Really?
Because The Sweetest Thing and Something Something, those are remixes.
Okay.
Those are definitely remixes. Have you ever heard the original version of Sweetest Thing? It's more of an up tempo beat.
Okay.
She went back and slowed it down, because Refugee All Stars technically is, I think that's John Forte and Pras.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, you know what I'm saying. And so I think Milky was kind of in there, Wyclef's sister Milky.
Mm-hmm.
Milky Sedek, that album was a pretty good album too. So you got Love Jones soundtrack. You also have, who else do we have as far as soundtracks go? I see New Jack City.
Right.
That ain't really it. Friday, nah, that's not really it. Romeo and Juliet actually had a couple of notable R&B songs on there. It had, y'all remember Quindon?
Mm-mm.
Quindon, he came out of the group, the camp with Immature and Chris Stokes.
Okay.
But Quindon was actually in the movie. He was singing. He was the kid that sang like one. Yeah, he had the strong voice. Thin Line Between Love and Hate. H-Town, Adina Howard, R. Kelly was on the Loonies. This was definitely a West Coast. This was a West Coast CD, a West Coast album. I definitely rock with the Loonies. Tevin Campbell, Eric Benet was on there. Shirley Murdoch. I'm pretty sure Shirley Murdoch was As We Lay.
Yeah.
Roger Troutman. With that combination. It's a shame how his brother killed him.
Yeah. Rest
in heaven, Roger Troutman. I'm trying to think of some other soundtracks that had some songs on there that we just. What soundtrack was Woo? But I can't think of any songs from Woo though. What song was the song that Lauryn Hill did for Mary J. Blige? All That I Can Say. Was that on the soundtrack?
I don't remember.
Because All That I Can Say, I want to say that I want to say that it was on the soundtrack, but I can't. And I'm trying to think. There's one more that I can remember. One more soundtrack. Bone did a song on the Great White Hype soundtrack.
Bone Thugs-n-Harmony? Yeah.
It was called Shoot 'Em Up. And it was at a time when if you had a decent song on a soundtrack, they'll play it on the radio.
Right.
And Shoot 'Em Up got some play. I mean, of course it sounds kind of negative, but Bone had that harmony, that singing style, you know what I mean? So they could damn near be singing. What was on Money Talk soundtrack? It was something that was on Money Talk soundtrack. Feel So Good with Mace. And Things Just Ain't the Same. Oh, Things Just Ain't the Same with Deborah Cox. I remember that.
Yeah. I think, it's like it's so hard because we talk about the 90s. It's so many people that you could talk about that we like. Deborah Cox, because she was hot for a good second.
I still rock with Deborah Cox. I think Deborah Cox has one of the strongest voices.
Yeah.
That never got props for having a strong voice. Amazing songwriter, extremely talented. But I think the songs that she has done. Oh, Dead Prez soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
That Dead Prez soundtrack, even though it had a lot of classic Soul Food.
Soul Food.
All right, so pause. Soul Food soundtrack. If you want to know, let's look at who all's on here real quick. You got Blackstreet. No Diggity is actually one of the quintessential R&B songs of the 90s as well.
Boys to Men.
Milestone, In Vogue, Drew Hill, Casey and JoJo, Diddy, Monica and Usher, Outkast, Total and Escape. Now that lineup alone is crucial.
Right.
But the thing that I like the most, and I think that we can pull from the most from the Soul Food soundtrack, is if a good concept for Outkast would be to do something and go back to the original lineup, which was CeeLo, and do an Outkast album with all of that In Due Time song. If they would have built 17 more songs after In Due Time, that would have probably been greater than anything that they could have done. Really, you know what I'm saying? Like we really, if y'all think Cass, I know y'all, Dre, I know you've been working on some stuff, man. We appreciate you. I know you've been working with James Blake. I know you've been working with Frank Ocean. You've probably been working with Donald Glover. Please put out some music this year. We waiting on it. We know it's coming. And I go back and forth with saying I'm not going to ask Dre for music, but when he voluntarily puts out 24 minutes between two songs of music, you know what I'm saying, for Mother's Day, like I have to think that he wants to be nudged in the direction of putting out more music. So Dre, we need you out here, brother. We need you. Everybody is doing stuff inspired by you. Even Ray Shrummer is doing music inspired by you. We need y'all to go ahead and do this. You, CeeLo, and Bit Boy. I'm not trying to display Sleepy, but I think people want to see CeeLo, Andre, and Bit Boy do an album together and call it Outkast because it would be Outkast. That's my take.
I agree.
R. Kelly had a song on that Batman Forever soundtrack. And
I remember
Kiss from a Rose. That's my song, man.
Yeah.
That's my song. How come Seal doesn't get his props as R&B?
I don't know.
I love Seal. I
love that song.
I love Crazy. I love really Crazy is that jam for me. But Kiss from a Rose, a lot of those songs. I don't know if that's because he went through the whole skin thing. You know, black people real funny. We don't want to eat we don't want to eat the retarded piece of chicken.
No.
The little burnt piece. We don't eat that though. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's how we treat Seal. We treat Seal like, he's black unapologetically, but he gets tied into doing non-black music, or he's less black because he doesn't do or doesn't have the complexion or the tone in the music that we like.
Exactly.
But Seal is definitely like super talented as a songwriter. So I know we've tackled a whole lot. This has been a great exchange.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate. You took me down memory lane.
That's what I was hoping to do.
You took me down memory lane. Certain songs, and I was preparing for this because I've been playing. When I go to the gym, I've been playing like 90 mixes while I'm on the treadmill. And it just gets me going. But it would behoove me not to, I know a friend of mine is like a sister to me, and we met in college. And we would sit in the room, play R&B, 90s R&B, and she was the biggest Glenn Jones fan. So you probably don't know who Glenn Jones was.
Glenn Jones was earlier. He was in the early 90s.
I've been searching. It was like three songs. That we play, and
Glenn Jones.
It was Glenn Jones. We play him. Of course, we play Al B. Sure. Yep, we've only just begun. That was '87. I've been searching, and Show Me. Yep.
Cause you know what? I think sometimes those artists, Glenn Jones and Freddie Jackson and the Tony Terry,
Tony Terry, yeah.
a lot of those artists that came out from like 87 to 92, they're lumped in their own little class too, because you know technology and how attached you are to a particular sound will dictate how people view you sometimes.
Right.
And although you may have had a release in the 90s, this, for example, is like if I do a song and I use Fruity Loops, I may do a good song, but it's going to remind people of 10 years ago when people were really using Fruity Loops.
Right.
So it's not a knock on their talent. It's just sometimes the sounds that they use.
So what do you think about Tevin Campbell?
You mean like musically?
Yeah.
Tevin Campbell is like one of the greatest talents of my generation. I feel I don't know what happened to him behind the scenes,
Right.
but I think anybody with two eyes knows that something happened to this young man behind the scenes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, but as consumers, sometimes I think we're so far removed from what they put in front of you versus what's really going on behind the scenes. We just like his songs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you see that brother, seeing that brother is different. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you see him, you're like, you can kind of tell, like.
So my question to you is, of all the artists, groups wise, what was your favorite concert you ever been to that's of the people of the 90s?
So believe it or not, I can't say. Like when I was at the time when I was really, I had to use the 90s R&B and music as an escape.
Okay.
I couldn't use it as a physical vehicle. So to simply put, I didn't go to concerts at that time. My first concert, my mom took me to see Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation, 1814 tour, back at the Omni.
Yeah.
That was my first concert, and I didn't go to another concert until I was, well into college.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I didn't want to, but I think everybody comes of age differently, and depending on what mediums you have around you will depend on how it affects your growth and your view and your out and your out view on the world or whatnot. So that was my internal escape.
Okay.
So I would use music in my mind to go. Like I used to buy singles. Like I grew up in the era where you can go to Walmart with $10 and buy singles. You know what I'm saying? Single CDs and a little paper sleeve, single cassette tapes. And that's how I found out about different things that way. Like that was my travel. Those were my passports.
Okay.
So when I did start going to concerts, we went crazy with it.
Yeah.
We went crazy. So I didn't get to see Jodeci when they came.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I didn't get to see Jagged Edge and Drew Hill and a lot of those people when they came, because when they were here, I was in high school. Who was gonna take me?
Yeah.
My mama not gonna take me to no Jodeci concert.
Let's say.
Who gonna buy the tickets?
So my favorite. Okay, so a concert that I had in college, that came to my college, that I think we never forget is when I think I was a sophomore in college, and it was Black Sheep. They opened They opened the show for TLC.
Oh, that's dope.
So it's when TLC first came out. But my favorite, of course, is the Home Again reunion tour of New Edition.
And that was in '98.
Yeah, so that was New Edition. That was Blackstreet. Guy. Well, no, Blackstreet. I'm sorry, Blackstreet, and Bobby Brown.
Some kind of way we managed to leave off Lauryn Hill in this conversation.
I know.
And I think that's a good way to end.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to end. Once again, the 90s represented so many things for so many people. It didn't matter what your mood was, what your ideology was, what your mantra was. There was something in R&B for you. If you wanted to be whatever it was, you could do it. And I think that kind of culminated with a couple of albums. And I think this is kind of the way I want to wrap up the R&B conversation. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Now it represents it's a polarizing album for a lot of people because it represents the beginning and the end of an era simultaneously. Because we were expecting so much more afterwards, right? And I think when we got the double disc, the Unplugged Live from Lauryn Hill, I think by then we had kind of the sheen had kind of wore off a little bit with her. But the Miseducation has, once again, it may in fact be all of the 90s wrapped into one CD.
It was.
You know, now that I think about it.
That
In my
was a-
opinion, I am.
that was
in my opinion.
I think every person had that CD.
You had to. You had to.
Every person had that CD.
You had to.
Exactly.
So
Now, what was the second song?
the second
CD, I mean.
the second album, and once again, I revere that album so much because I always like, for black music, we need to have music that's inclusive for both genders. And I think our music can be very, very divisive along gender lines.
I agree.
Whether or not we want to accept it or not. And I think that there was something that resonated and that spoke to everyone on that album. Also, as an honorable mention, outside of what we've talked about, Calvin Richardson and yes. His first album, that Country Boy album, was a beautiful blend of what a lot of artists are trying to do now with their country roots. He was able to do it in a way that wasn't pretentious.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate Calvin Richardson. And I also appreciate the most unsung artist of the neo soul movement in the 90s, Chico DeBarge.
Chico
DeBarge. Guys, if you have not heard Long Time No See, just go to Long Time No See, just put it in. He's going to tell you the story about how he went to jail, how he came back. He's trying to get back with his he's trying to fall back into not missing a beat. And the 90s provide the perfect environment for him to be able to do that. So
I thought you were gonna say Bilal.
Bilal didn't come out in the 90s though.
Okay.
Yeah. It came out it came out in the 2000s.
2000. Right.
Yeah, it came out in 2000s. But definitely those artists right there didn't really get a lot of their props. So I'm trying to think, is there one more that I'm leaving out in the 90s? I said Lauryn Hill. Oh, this album right here was the last best male R&B album, traditional, no hip hop, no, you know what I'm saying, no features, no I gotta have an up-tempo verse or nothing, just pure R&B. Carl Thomas, Emotional.
Yes.
That's every song is a banger.
Yes, sir.
It's not. There's nothing. Yes, there's nothing about it that leaves you wanting. It makes you feel uncomfortable. I mean, you can be a man's man and listen to that emotional album and really use it to convey some true sentiments and some true feelings. So that's where I want to end it. I want to start it off with the early 90s, Mariah Carey's. You know, Whitney Houston, she had her heyday. You know, a lot of these artists had their heyday in the early 90s. Janet Jackson. They carried over a lot of stuff from the 80s. The 90s were very, very, it was an all-inclusive, diverse, highly spirited era of music where no matter what it was you were trying to do, whether or not you wanted to hold on to the old sentiments of the old school, or where you wanted to go new school with the Y2K movement, whether or not you wanted to do, you know, Matrix-style videos with some of what Drew Hill did on Enter the Drew. Whatever you wanted to do, the 90s allowed you to do that. But when it comes to separation of church and state, hip-hop and R&B, Carl Thomas gave us the last true example of a pure R&B album before hip-hop influence had to take over.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion.
Yeah, because now everybody feel they have to have a need to have.
You gotta have it to get on radio.
Yeah.
To get on radio. That's why you hear some songs will have the hip hop verse on it and some won't.
Right.
And the one that doesn't is the one for 104.1, and the one that does is for V103.
Right.
You know. But yeah. So, you know, go back, listen to your R&B. It's something in there for everybody. Listen to some Aaliyah. Some Genuine. Listen to Playo. Playo is my most unsung group of the 90s. They only did one album, Cheers to You. Unfortunately, Static Major died of a brain aneurysm right around the time when he was producing and promoting Lollipop for Lil Wayne. But that sound, they may be more responsible for a particular sound outside of Timbaland and Missy.
Right.
So if you want to think about the Blackground sound, the Blackground sound would definitely not be what it is or what it was without Smoke, Static,
right,
and Smoke, Static, and Black.
Right. I just like, for me, like I said, you know, the '90s, it was just that era. That's where I grew up in. You know, as I was becoming a young adult, going to college, and then being an adult, partying, all that kind of stuff. So that was the soundtrack to my life. You know, Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It, and all that kind of stuff.
First album was a classic.
Yeah, you know, so of course, you know, Blackstreet was like my group. But it's like the soundtrack of, you know, of our lives. And like I said before, it was just, you know, it was just a way for it. They created, like you said, albums and that it was masculine enough for the men to feel secure to sing to it. You know, whether it was Jodeci, Carl Thomas, the songs that created, Drew Hill, the songs that created was masculine enough to where you know, the men, it was okay to go ahead and sing along with and sing their heart out to it. You know what I'm saying?
And the ladies were not afraid to speak up and draw lines in terms of expectations. You had a lot of women singing songs. Like Brandy's first song was "I Want to Be Down."
Right.
That was a song with one of the lyrics to that song was I'll be a shoulder if you need something. Like basically said, I'll be a shoulder to cry on. It's not those sentiments are not heard in black music because it has been, those are the aspects of black love that have eroded, the emotional nurturing and uplifting of each other that we need. And that wasn't a very innocent teeny bopper song, but it still holds true to today. You know what I mean?
What's funny is that, you know, as I'm listening to you talk and I'm thinking, I'm reminiscing as we talking, it's like, man, and my friends know this, those who listen to my friends will understand this too. When we in the clubs back in those days, you know, here now, they don't play like no slow songs whatsoever. But in the clubs back in the day,
they would slow it down.
They would slow it down. They play 3 tracks in a row. That was your chance to make your move. Whether early on, they did it twice. Early on in the show, in the club, and towards the end of the night. So you make that move, you gotta do it. And that was your chance to pick that chick, whoever you trying to get with, and slow dance, rub on them, sing and talk to them until you make your move. And now it's not like that no more. So
I know this isn't a hip hop show, but if anyone out there is wondering where the disconnect is with our generation and what it means and what love means to this generation, look at the relationship between 21 and Amber Rose. They were together. He went out on the limb. I guess, well, in relationships, I guess 2 people go out on the limb. But the rumor is that she cheated on him with one of his friends. And now she's trying to get back with him, and she's sending out all these messages. And he's like, nah, you crossed me one time, it's forget you for life. But if you just look at that right there is a microcosm of what how we approach our relationships now. The music that these kids are listening to, hey kids, I know that the new music is good. Alternative R&B has kind of opened up y'all's palette some, but go back and listen to what inspired alternative R&B, and you'll understand the essence of what black love really is. Because right now we're losing what black love is because we lost the ability to communicate with each other without fear of how we look.
Right.
This generation not gonna slow dance because they scared about how they're gonna look.
Right.
They don't know rejection. They don't know. There's a lot of things about socializing that they don't understand. And that's why you don't get that anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, instead of us having graduations for pre-K, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, why don't we just do dances?
Right.
Just bring back the social.
Right.
Bring back the spring fling, the fall ball, and make these kids socialize and use music as a medium.
Because for us, you know, we looked forward. No, I could dance, you know, on the fast tracks, but the guys look forward to being able to get close to that woman.
That's what you should want. You should want to be able to speak to a young lady and only you and her know what you guys are discussing, tastefully and respectfully speaking.
Right.
Because if you have to do something on display in front of your boys, we're not equipped for that.
Right.
We're not equipped because, you know, our society is based on bullying and teasing. So a brother could be speaking from his heart, but his boys don't have the heart to do it. So they'll talk down on him, but he's actually being genuine towards a young lady and not trying to degrade her and down her. But that brother will get made fun of. And I think the remedy to that is in the spectrum of 90s R&B music.
Right.
We can get back to the love, man, with 90s
We need
R&B.
to. We need
All
to.
right?
So I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You took me down 2 hours of memory lane. Now I'm gonna go back to play my music again tonight before I go to bed. Like,
Absolutely.
get it going. Play it when I go to the gym in the morning. You could. I'm glad you. For those who watched, tuned in. Thank you. But this probably will be on his page as well. So
Yeah, we're gonna- yeah,
so tell him,
yeah, we're gonna-
shoot out your information to everybody so they want to see it.
I am Music Monk ATL. You can catch me at Music Monk ATL on IG, Music and Motorcycles ATL on IG as well, and my show Music in the Truck with Music Monk on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Music Monk ATL.
This has been, you know, when he first did music in the truck, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw the first episode. I was like, okay, how can I be a part of this? Because you know,
We getting there. We getting there.
Music is, you know, what keeps me going. Music is part of my wellness and self care.
Absolutely.
Whatever mood I'm in, I could play a certain type of music to get me going through that time. So, you know, that's why I felt it was cool to do this, because music is a great form of wellness. You know, if you're sad, you know, you got songs that could cheer you up, or if you don't want to get cheered up, you just want to wallow in that sadness, songs that keep you in
You can
that
listen to
mood
Mary J.
where-
Blige. You know
Listen
what
to
I'm
Mary
saying?
J. Blige, exactly. If you just, you know, you want to reminisce, you know, you got all the different songs from back in the day that was on, you know, where you at and what you've been doing. I went so back to old school before I close out. I was on YouTube at the gym and I found Old Town 357. Juicy got me crazy. And
Man,
that was
them girls can rap though.
we played. I used to play that. We used to hear that song back in the day in Detroit when I used to play. Oh, I think I was like 18 then. So yeah. So
Wasn't that Hammers Group?
yeah. Yeah. So I was like, that took me back. So, but you know, and so that just takes you know, it's crazy how you act like your parents now, because like you in your era and like you know who know when the song came out, what you was doing, where you was at, what kind of haircuts you had, all that stuff going on. So it's just and like you said, that was the time when, you know, love was truly in effect. You know, women, you know, express their love, men express their love. Now we don't do it as much, and I think you see it in our relationships. And so keep doing what you're doing, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you for
No.
having me, man.
And you know, he's always gonna be part of our crew. And once a month we had the men's round table. I will say that they like you. They like you. They like your comments. They feel that you could strive. You know, you.
I'm growing. I'm trying to show
grown.
my growth.
You
Is
grown.
what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show my growth.
Our brother from another mother.
Hey,
They have a very love-hate relationship with.
right.
They love him, but they say they don't. You know, they say how he gonna ever get married with the way he talk he's craziness. But they can't help it. So they, from watching me and his craziness on my show on the men's roundtable, then they can't help but to go to be a
To
conversation,
be in a conversation,
just
right.
to see what more answers
It
he's gonna
pulls you
bring.
in. Yeah, it definitely pulls
so,
you in. Definitely pulls you in.
You know, but I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope y'all got enjoyed this down memory lane of 90s R&B. We're gonna go back to our, you know, wellness architect stuff. I'm looking at a fitness guy for next week. Hopefully, I get a confirmation. He'll be back in the beginning, sometime in June for our men's roundtable. And just be great. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. Be authentic. Be you. And we are out. Peace.
Peace.